Hi there, welcome. This is Julia Ferdal, and in this talk today, I'll be offering you an orientation for any meditation practice. So if you're new to meditation and looking for a way to start, the ideas I'll be sharing with you are a great place to start. And if you already have a meditation practice, maybe one that needs a little freshening up, I hope the ideas I'll be sharing with you will help re-inspire your practice. As you listen, please feel free to close your eyes and just take it all in, or you can take notes if you'd like, whatever works best for you. Obviously, this teaching is recorded and you can return to it anytime. You may be familiar with a quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry that says, "If you want to build a ship, don't herd people together to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea." It's in that spirit that I want to guide you towards your meditation practice. Rather than giving you specific instructions, I want to help you fall in love or fall back in love with the immensity of the inner sea and the deep sacredness of our world, both seen and unseen, through meditation. Because meditation is much more an art than a science. If you wanted to learn to make a beautiful painting, a person could tell you how to use the paintbrush and teach you some things about color and technique. But the spirit of a great painting, that can only come through you, from your soul searching and the degree to which you've opened yourself up to the creative spirit. The same is true with meditation. Some instructions for a meditation practice are helpful, but they too will only get you so far. But teachings that inspire and turn you toward your heart and your longings, can set you off on a path that you can then follow and explore on your own, in your way, without limit. So please consider what I'm sharing with you today to be teachings, not instructions. Let me start with this poem by Mark Strand called My Name. One night, when the lawn was a golden green, and the marbled moonlit trees rose like fresh memorials in the scented air, and the whole countryside pulsed with the chirr and murmur of insects, I lay in the grass, feeling the great distances open above me, and wondered what would I become, and where would I find myself. And though I barely existed, I felt for an instant that the vast, star-clustered sky was mine, and I heard my name as if for the first time, heard it the way one hears the wind or the rain, but faint and far off, as though it belonged not to me, but to the silence from which it had come and to which it would go. In traditional Buddhist trainings, which is the original source of most meditation practices as we know them here in the West, when one steps onto a spiritual path, the practice that is always given first, before any mindfulness or meditation practices, is a generosity practice. Why? Because the quality of relinquishing, the letting go that is central to true generosity, allows all other efforts related to the cultivation of mindfulness, meditation, compassion, and joy to flow more easily. The capacity to let go is essential. The spiritual path tends to follow a different route here in the West because we have a desire to be skillful with our minds. We are enticed through the intellect, and by mental challenges, we enjoy the sense of focus and control in that. And while there are some ways in which our intellect and ambition can move our spiritual process along, our intellect and our need for control are also major obstacles because they are the opposite of relinquishing. We don't know how to let go. A spiritual life, which I'll define here as one in which we come to understand the interconnectedness of things, the oneness. It's not an intellectual pursuit. In fact, the Buddha described the path of enlightenment as, quote, a liberation of the heart into love and connection. So it's the vast heart space, not the intellect, that we aim to occupy in our spiritual practices, including meditation. The over-reliance on the intellect in the West, which runs concurrent to our fear of the heart space, is why many of us in the West mistake the aim of meditation as merely a training or quieting of the mind, as a practice in concentration. That part of meditation is a step in, but there's so much more, because concentration and meditation are not the same thing. Concentration has a point of focus. Meditation is an expansive awareness with no point of focus. It includes everything. Concentration is about control, and with concentration, we're still in the mind. Meditation is about putting the mind and its need for control down and opening up to the greater state of vastness and surrender. To be clear, this isn't a criticism of concentration-oriented practices. Concentration techniques are valuable techniques that can help us move towards surrender. What I'm saying rather is that concentration is not the same as meditation, and concentration alone will not transform us. What will transform us is finding our way into the beautifully still, deeper aspect of the heart space, where a great settling and spreading can occur, where love becomes infinite, where the dualities between self and other disappear, the veils between the seen and unseen are lifted, and our suffering fades alongside fading thoughts of not enoughness, superiority, and separation in general. While the mind excels at making distinctions and differentiations, and while there are plenty of places in our lives where such capacities serve us, the heart does the opposite. The heart is a holder of all things, all truths, all realities, all paradoxes. It's like an antenna that connects us to all things. If the heart is in a protracted or protective state, we feel cut off and isolated, sometimes from our own selves. But when we enter the heart and open the heart, that antenna extends in all directions and connects us to all things. We can be alone anytime, even all the time, and never feel cut off. Keeping the heart space open and healthy is essential to our happiness, and meditation is a practice that can help us do that. So, as difficult or terrifying as it may seem, when we go to meditate, we want to put down the intellect and view our meditation practice not so much as a doing, but more as a relinquishing of control, a relinquishing of productivity, a relinquishing of self, a relinquishing of our story and our attachment to that story, a letting go of thought in general, so that in that emptiness, in the space made available by your relinquishing, your true nature and the true nature of all things can be revealed to you, not actively discovered by you, that would be a doing, but naturally revealed to you in the absence of certain mental obstacles. This is a very abstract thing to be talking about, your true nature and the true nature of all things, I know. But unfortunately, there are no better words to describe what I'm pointing at. Great poets can get close to what that is, but ultimately, the only way for you to really understand is to experience it directly yourself. And to experience it, you have to let go. This takes time and commitment. And for the modern mind, it also takes trust. Trust to stop thinking. Trust to stop trying to make things happen, to suspend your mental efforting and open yourself to a different kind of knowing if you've been relying almost exclusively on the mind for all these years. It's an act of trust to put that down. And if you feel resistant to putting that down, you might ask yourself, is the mind alone, living in the mind to the degree that we are, is it getting us where we want to be? Are we happy? Or are we going mad? That might be a question worth considering. The last thing I'll say about why we do this, about why it's valuable to have a deep meditation practice such as this is that in times like these, when the winds of chaos in the material world are blowing so hard, it really helps to keep your connection to spirit strong. When you lose that connection, or if you don't have that connection, you will feel overwhelmed and powerless. Your spiritual practices are not meant to be an escape from the world, but rather a way to understand it more deeply and move through it and with it more graciously and effectively, even when it's storming. And the truth is, all these storms in the material world originate from the wounds and chaos of our collective inner worlds. So we want to do our part and at the very least tend to our own inner world and make that inner world as peaceful as possible. So when we close our eyes and turn our gaze inward, what we're really doing is meeting ourselves, meeting our true nature, our Buddha nature, as it's called. We're opening to and through the vast heart space, allowing something quiet and eternal to come forward and help you see that you're already complete, you're already perfect, and that you need not look any further for love or for happiness. It's right here. When we close our eyes and turn our gaze inward, we're also creating a container in which to bring back together our disintegrated parts. We bring the body, our attention, and our feeling self together in the same place at the same time. A feeling of rest and calm comes instantly, simply for no longer being so pulled apart. And through this process of reintegrating ourselves, we also begin to reintegrate our personal self with the totality that we belong to. Through that comes an even deeper feeling of quiet and stillness, the end of searching, the beginning of being. So simple. Now, there's a common fear that tends to arise when we consider this idea of encountering ourselves so openly. Maybe you've already felt it as I was speaking. That fear is that you won't like who or what you encounter. For Westerners with our problems with self-love, which is a large topic in my 6-week compassion immersion, if you might like to join me in that program one day. Allowing one's true nature to be revealed can be a frightening idea if you believe that your true nature is inadequate or that it's somehow fundamentally bad. But I assure you, nothing could be further from the truth. As you encounter your true nature, you'll find there's no such thing as not enough or not lovable. Those thoughts are symptoms of the shortcomings of our modern societies, and they just aren't true. But you can't know that just by me telling you that. You have to encounter this truth yourself. So it takes a little bit of that trust I was talking about earlier. You know, as Westerners, one of the most common mistakes we make is to think meditation is complicated. We want to think that there's some secret method or secret code to crack because then we feel skillful and important. But meditation is really simple. It's about trust and surrender. The path to surrender will be a little different for everyone. That's really all it is. When you make it complicated, you work against yourself. The simpler you can get, the closer to a childlike view, the deeper you'll go. One last thing you might consider is a simple auxiliary practice outside of any sitting practice that can help you with this idea of letting go, which is to simply let yourself be with and in silence more often. See if you can practice not filling the silent spaces up when they come, whether you're alone or with another person. Silence is a profound and generous space, and within it is the same encounter with self and with what is. That's why most people avoid it, quite frankly. But if you can learn to be with it in your daily life, you'll have a much easier time dropping into your meditations as well. In fact, there's a quote I love by Terry Tempest Williams. She wrote, "Silence introduced in a society that worships noise is like the moon exposing the night. Behind darkness is our fear. Within silence, our voice dwells. What is required from both is that we be still. So, we want to put down the more energetic, intellectual, or aggressive ways of approaching meditation and spirituality, and simply come into it lightly, open, and available. This orientation is an invitation to put efforting down and to relinquish instead as you approach your meditation. So, having said all that, here are 4 commitments to make for any meditation practice. Number 1, the first commitment is to approach your meditation from the heart, not your mind. If you approach yourself from a transactional mind that wants to check something off the self-care or spirituality checklist, yet is unwilling to let go even for a moment of who you think you are or your material world concerns and beliefs, from there you will not get past the shallow surface and you're unlikely to feel engaged in your meditation. But if you approach yourself with love, with a willingness to surrender, and a willingness to meet yourself just as you are, to feel your way into the heart space so that you might saturate in the love and belonging that it knows, then you will feel connected to your meditation and you will also be transformed. The second commitment is to be still in the body. To do this, make sure you set yourself up comfortably enough that you won't have to adjust every few minutes. Commit to not adjusting your body every time your mind asks you to. Sometimes your mind will make up a reason you need to adjust just to distract you, because the truth is, it's a little bit afraid of this vastness that you're opening to. But if it finds that you aren't responding to its instructions to adjust, it will eventually give up. So commit to stillness, not rigidity, but stillness. As the body finds this stillness, the mind will eventually follow. A third commitment is to allow everything about the experience to be exactly the way that it is. And again, when I say that, I don't mean it as something for your mind to do, as some kind of active allowing. It's difficult to explain, but I mean it as more of a state of awareness. Just allowance and awareness of the waters moving the way they move and drawing no conclusions about anything. You simply listen like you listen to the rain, or observe the way you passively observe a river without any need to change it. And the fourth commitment is to be easy and light about everything, not masterful and serious, but easy and with a very light touch. For example, when you notice you're in your thoughts, simply begin again. With lightness, ease, and friendliness, find the breath again. Just start again. No matter how far you may have strayed or for how long, the breath will still be right there. And so you simply begin again with a very light touch. So I hope that's helpful. If you'd ever like to be guided into these deeper places of meditation by me, please explore the links below.